It happened to me 10 years ago, but the memory of that night still haunts me. Every time I think about it, a cold shiver runs down my spine. I know it sounds dramatic, but believe me when I say it felt like I came closer to the darkness than I ever thought possible. This is something I can't forget, no matter how hard I try. It all started during a summer break. I was away at university, staying in a dormitory far from home. During the break, I decided to visit my family. It had been months since I'd seen them, and I missed them terribly. My family home wasn't too far from the university, but it wasn't exactly a short trip either. I had already told my parents I would be home that day, and they were expecting me. However, they mentioned that they'd be visiting my aunt, and that they'd be a little late. Normally, my dad would pick me up, but this time he was going with my mom. They told me to take a cab, which was fine by me. I was tired, and all I wanted to do was rest. Honestly, I didn't mind the delay. I wasn't particularly fond of visiting my cousins, too noisy for my taste. The cab ride was uneventful, and by the time I arrived, it was already midday. I stepped out of the cab and gazed at the house, a sense of familiarity and comfort washing over me. But then, something caught my eye, a shadow. It was subtle, almost like a movement behind the curtains in the living room. I couldn't see clearly, but I could swear someone was there. Maybe it was my sibling? No one else was supposed to be home, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was inside. I stood frozen for a moment, considering whether I should knock or just walk in. But it seemed odd to knock if someone was home, so I decided to head to the front door and try my luck. I knocked, waited, and when there was no answer, I tried again. Still, no answer. I felt a strange unease settle in. I was sure someone had been inside just moments ago. The windows were locked, and the door remained shut. I told myself it was probably my mind playing tricks on me because I was exhausted. Maybe I just needed some rest. There was a spare key hidden outside, something we'd always done in case of emergencies. I grabbed it from its hiding spot, hesitated for just a second, and then unlocked the door. As soon as I stepped inside, I felt it. A shiver ran up my spine, but I brushed it off as a result of being tired. The house was silent, eerily silent. It felt wrong. The familiar sights, the old family portraits on the walls, the warm colors of the living room, felt cold. Empty. I was too tired to think much of it. I headed straight for my siblings' room, plopped down on their bed, and let the exhaustion take over. The next thing I knew, I had drifted off into a deep sleep. When I awoke, it was already dark outside. The house was still eerily quiet. My family hadn't arrived home yet. I checked my phone, no messages, no calls. Feeling a little hungry, I decided to go to the kitchen to make something to eat. The house was dark. The only light came from the faint glow of the streetlights outside. As I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, I started hearing something. It was faint at first, like a soft, melodic humming. It wasn't loud, but it felt soothing, hypnotic. It sounded like a woman's voice, and it pulled me toward it. I stopped for a moment, confused. I hadn't heard anyone else in the house. I thought maybe I was hearing things, still half asleep, but the sound was real. The voice was too beautiful, too alluring. I couldn't resist. I walked down the hallway, my hand reaching for the kitchen door handle. It was as if my body was moving on its own. But just as my fingers touched the handle, the humming stopped. The house went deathly silent. I froze. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. The kitchen door opened into pitch blackness. I stepped in slowly, cautiously. There was nothing there. Just darkness. No voice, no humming, no sign that anything had been there at all. I told myself I was imagining things. The lack of sleep was getting to me. I quickly grabbed something to eat, a snack to stave off the hunger. I headed back to my siblings' room, where I felt safe, even though I couldn't explain the odd sensation that had overcome me. It felt like something had been waiting for me, but I couldn't say why. As I walked down the hallway, I turned off the lights. It was almost like I was in a trance, moving mechanically toward the room. But then I felt it, the sensation that I wasn't alone. Something was behind me. I whipped around, heart pounding in my chest.